you live in these states, watch this.
Never, Jeffrey! Jeffrey! I hate you!
Active serial killers.
The country's most prolific serial killer.
Right now, as you're watching this video, there are an estimated 25 to 50 active serial killers operating in the United States.
Someone opened fire on students taking final exams.
The FBI believes that at any given time, there are between 2,000 and 4,000 serial killers who have never been caught.
You got your monster.
But here's what's truly terrifying. Some states have become hunting grounds for multiple active killers simultaneously.
Deepest sympathies go out to the families and loved ones.
And if you live in one of these states, the statistics suggest you're at significantly higher risk.
The man convicted of more murders than any serial killer in American history.
Inside the building.
In the past 18 months alone, law enforcement agencies have identified active serial killer cases in 7 different states. Some of these killers have been operating for years, leaving behind patterns that investigators are only now beginning to understand. According to the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit, the definition of a serial killer is someone who commits 3 or more murders with cooling-off periods between each crime. What makes these cases particularly challenging is that active serial killers are still hunting, still killing, and still evading capture. The National Center for the Analysis of Violent Crime tracks these cases through the VICAP database, the Violent Criminal Apprehension Program. This system helps law enforcement identify patterns and connections between seemingly unrelated murders across state lines. But despite advanced technology and interagency cooperation, dozens of serial killers remain active across America, and the data shows they're not randomly distributed. Certain states have become hotspots for serial killer activity. If you live in one of these states, law enforcement officials say you need to be aware of the ongoing investigations and take specific precautions. California leads the nation in active serial killer cases, with at least 4 confirmed active killers currently being investigated by law enforcement. The state's large population, multiple major cities, and extensive highway system create ideal conditions for serial killers to operate undetected. The most concerning case involves what investigators call the Highway 99 killer. Since 2019, at least 7 women have been found murdered along the Highway 99 corridor between Bakersfield and Sacramento. All victims were found in remote areas, and forensic evidence suggests they were killed by the same perpetrator. In Stockton, police are investigating a series of shootings that began in July 2022. 7 people were killed in what appears to be random attacks, with ballistics evidence linking the crimes to a single shooter. The killer targeted victims of different ages, races, and backgrounds, making the case particularly challenging to solve. Los Angeles County is dealing with what detectives believe is an active serial killer targeting homeless individuals. Since January 2023, 12 homeless people have been found murdered in similar circumstances across different areas of the county. The killer appears to target victims while they sleep, using the same method of attack. The Bay Area has seen a resurgence of serial killer activity, with investigators tracking at least 2 separate cases. One involves the murders of elderly Asian Americans in Oakland and San Francisco, while another focuses on young women who have disappeared from nightlife districts in San Jose and surrounding areas. Texas ranks second in active serial killer investigations, with law enforcement agencies across the state coordinating on at least 3 separate cases. The state's size and diverse geography provide serial killers with numerous opportunities to strike and disappear. The most significant case involves murders along the Interstate 35 corridor, stretching from Laredo to Dallas. Since 2020, investigators have linked 9 murders to what they believe is a single perpetrator who targets truck stops and rest areas. The killer appears to focus on commercial sex workers and transient individuals. Houston police are investigating a series of home invasion murders that began in late 2022. 5 families have been killed in their homes, with the perpetrator leaving behind a distinctive signature at each crime scene. The attacks occur in middle-class neighborhoods and appear to be carefully planned. In the Austin metropolitan area, investigators are tracking a killer who targets young professionals. 4 victims, all between ages 25 and 35, have been found murdered in their apartments over the past 14 months. The killer gains entry without signs of forced entry, suggesting victims may have known their attacker or been deceived into opening their doors. Florida's unique combination of tourism, transient population, and extensive coastline makes it a challenging state for tracking serial killers. Law enforcement agencies are currently investigating at least 2 active cases with potential for more. The I-4 corridor killer has been linked to 6 murders between Tampa and Orlando since 2021. Victims are found in wooded areas near highway exits, and forensic evidence suggests the killer is familiar with the local geography. All victims were traveling alone when they disappeared. Miami-Dade County is investigating what appears to be a serial killer targeting tourists and visitors. 3 international tourists have been murdered in similar circumstances over the past 18 months, with the killer apparently selecting victims who were alone and unfamiliar with the area. Jacksonville police are tracking a case involving the murders of elderly residents in assisted living facilities. 4 victims have been killed in different facilities across the city, with evidence suggesting the perpetrator may be someone with access to these locations, possibly a healthcare worker or service provider. New York's dense population and complex urban environment provide cover for serial killers, with the NYPD currently investigating 2 active cases that have captured national attention. The Gilgo Beach case, which has been ongoing for over a decade, saw new developments in 2023 with the arrest of Rex Heuermann. However, investigators believe there may be additional perpetrators responsible for some of the murders. In Manhattan, police are investigating a series of attacks on subway passengers that began in early 2023. While not all attacks have been fatal, the pattern suggests an escalating perpetrator who may be building toward more serious crimes. Washington State has a troubling history with serial killers, and current investigators suggest this pattern continues. Law enforcement agencies are tracking at least 1 confirmed active case with potential connections to Oregon. Investigators are also tracking potential connections between murders in Washington and similar cases in Oregon, suggesting a killer who travels the Interstate 5 corridor. The pattern involves young women who disappear from urban areas and are found in rural locations weeks or months later. The FBI and local law enforcement agencies have issued specific safety recommendations for residents in these high-risk states. These guidelines are based on analysis of how active serial killers select and approach their victims. Key safety measures include avoid isolated areas, especially at night. Don't travel alone on long highway trips. Be cautious about letting strangers into your home. Vary your daily routines and routes. Stay aware of your surroundings in parking lots and rest stops. Trust your instincts if something feels wrong. Law enforcement agencies in these high-risk states have increased coordination and resource allocation to address active serial killer cases. The FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit works closely with local departments to develop profiles and investigate connections between cases. The VICAP database has been expanded to include more detailed information about crime scenes, victim characteristics, and perpetrator behavior patterns. The reality is sobering. If you live in California, Texas, Florida, New York, or Washington, you're statistically more likely to encounter an active serial killer than residents of other states. This doesn't mean you should live in fear, but it does mean you should live with awareness. If you have information about any suspicious activity or unsolved murders in your area, contact your local law enforcement immediately. Subscribe now and hit the notification bell. Next time, we dive into another chilling story from death row, exploring executions, grave doubts, and the haunting possibility that some of the condemned may have been innocent all along. Join our community demanding truth and accountability from the justice system, because sometimes the truth surfaces only after an innocent life has already been taken.